MLB The Show tips. Let's get better at hitting high fastballs. That's what I'm going to show you using 2 controllers, practicing hitting those high fastballs, because when I see one, I think that ball should be going out of the park as long as I time it up and have my zone in the right place. So let's show you a camera view of what I'm doing with my controller. Let's switch it over right here. One of the first things I want to talk about is using zone hitting, and that's what I'm going to go over in this video. And what I like to use the zone, which you see here with the wedge PCI. So you go to gameplay options, you go to hitting interface, turn on zone, and then go to wedge. There are also other options here, but I like using wedge. And then all you gotta do is back out. So once I have zone hitting set up, I wanna talk about that because you've got the dot right in the middle. You can move it up, you can move it down, however you want, and then you can go left or right. What I like to do is take away 1/3 of the strike zone at a time. So if I want to go see a pitch right down the middle, I'm gonna try to just take something away right in the middle and not even touch anything. Now, if I want to take away the top part of the zone, I want to go to about the pitcher's knee. Now, some strike zones are taller, like Prince Fielder's here is a little tall. Giancarlo Stanton, for instance, he's a huge guy, so his strike zone goes up even higher. You may need to go up to about his knee or thigh to really take away that top third of the zone. But right about here is where you're gonna see me use a lot of the zone wedge hitting PCI for a lot of these home runs. And I'm gonna be able to take away everything from that point all the way to the top of the strike zone. Now, if he's throwing a lot of things down low, you may want to put it right in the middle of this block here, something like that. And if it goes below, if it goes below when you're sitting up here and it goes right in the middle, you're gonna swing right over it. I mean, let's just take a real quick example here. I'm gonna pitch it right down the middle. I'm gonna hold my PCI right up there. Oh, actually, he hit it out for a home run. I think the pitcher missed his spot. Let's take a look here. This is a really good example of if you want to take away the top of the strike zone. I did that by mistake. I hit a home run, and you can see on the bottom left, you can see the graphic there. The ball was just to the left of my dot. I was sitting about right there at the pitcher's shin, around his knee. And you can see that in the bottom left graphic there that I really did take away the whole top third of the zone. My wedge was really covering that top third, and Prince Fielder has a pretty large one as well. Let's try it again. I'm going to see if I can swing over it. So I'm going to sit right about here, pitch the ball right down the middle. Let's hopefully he hits his target this time. Yeah, and actually I made contact with it, and what you'll see is that it was a ground ball, so it got under my PCI. And so if we look at the graphic, on the right here, look on the right, you see that the dot, which is right where the miles per hour sign is, the dot was well above, several inches above. I'd say the ball was about right here. If you look at my strike zone now, it's probably about right here. My PCI was sitting right about there, the dot. And so what I want to do is consistently take away the top part of the zone, and you may see my thumb is under the joystick, and that's not by accident. I have a horrible habit, I'm sure a lot of you guys do too, of doing this every time a ball is thrown. So here comes a high fastball, and I swing and miss just like that. It'll be right down the middle. I'll have it right here, and I'll go way too under it. And so what I've started doing lately is just putting my thumb literally under the thumbstick, under the joystick, and that way I put it right where I want, and there's no way that it's gonna move unless I just let go of my thumb. And sometimes I will. Sometimes if I see it's a curveball or something, and it's not going to be in the top part of the zone, I'll just let go, and my PCI will return to the middle. You could do the same thing if you wanted to on the reverse. If you wanted to go down below, you could, I guess, put your thumb on the top, and that would also work. And that way you would never really, jump back up to the top here. So here we go. I'm going to try to do some pitching while I'm hitting here. This is always fun. So I've got it on classic mode. If you want to move to classic mode, that's one way to do it. That's just a one-tap pitch. And that way I just try to put it right where I want it. And what you're going to see in a lot of the examples of this video is how I get under it, I get on top of it, I go over it. But when I line it up and that fastball is right in that third of the zone, I crush it every time. And that's the point. I just want to explain the zone hitting, where I'm positioning my thumb, and everything else, because I'll put it about right here. So see, George Springer's one of those taller guys. I've got to cover a little more of the plate. You don't want the zone way up here, though, and you don't want it down here. You kind of want to keep it, in the middle of your upper third, right in the middle of your middle third, and then right about here for your lower third. So once again, let's try throwing a high fastball to George Springer, who's got some cold zones up there. We'll see what happens. I was a little late getting my zone up there. Let's take a look at the graphic on the bottom left. Yep, you can see I wasn't quite where I wanted to be. I wasn't covering in that middle third zone the way I wanted to.
This is going to wind up a foul ball.
So right there, I probably nailed the bottom of the ball. Or I probably nailed the top of the ball and drove it into the ground. It was still a good hit. I'm just using X for these swings. A Colby Rasmus type, maybe you want to use power. Yep, and you see on the bottom right graphic there, you can see I was just on top of the ball, so I drove it pretty well. Good contact, but it wasn't where I wanted it to be. All right, let's try again. Let's throw Rasmus. Something about right at the top of the strike zone.
A little tardy there. No balls and a strike.
One thing this guy's going to need tonight.
There we go. And it's almost an automatic home run if you time it up and that ball is kind of where you want it to be. So if your opponent is trying to throw you a strike, this is how you combat it. You know, they want to throw you a high strike, high fastball. Let's take a look at the bottom left graphic, and then we'll go into all of our highlights. So just keep an eye on all the graphics, the post at-bat feedback. That's really helpful. I love the developers put it in there so you can see even your exit velocity there was at 108 miles per hour. So here we go with it, some Diamond Dynasty online head-to-head gameplay. I'm playing in Sportsman's Park for some of these. I just bought that baseball stadium. It's pretty cool. Nice shallow porch and right. So if you want to be a little late on a fastball, that's awesome. Or if you've got a lot of good pull hitters that are lefties, this is an excellent park for them, a much deeper left field. So after each of these home runs, I'm going to try to put up the graphic, and then we're going to move into some regular gameplay where I'm pitching to myself, trying to hit those high fastballs. But all of these in the blue jerseys are against someone head-to-head. In the last few days, I've been doing this, trying to develop this technique of putting my thumb under that left joystick and holding it there, really holding it there so I don't move it. So I'm going to make sure I take away that top third no matter what. And if you look at the bottom graphics after each home run, this one in particular, there was Cliff Floyd, that's the 84 Legends for the Mets. I was trying to use him. Take a look, that ball was above the strike zone and I had it perfectly placed. I wanted to get a few more examples, actually a lot more examples. The next 5 minutes will be nothing but home runs, so if you like home runs, enjoy this. I just was pitching to myself and then switching controllers like I was doing earlier in the video, and really trying to give you an idea of not only what it looks like, but also those graphics. I want to show you exactly where that ball is when I crush it, right? So I'm going to leave it in the bottom left or the bottom right. That time the ball was actually under the dot, if you noticed. So as soon as these balls go over the fence and clear the wall, just take a look at the graphic, bottom left. Look how high that ball was above the strike zone. Let's see where this one was. It was a home run again. That was just to the top right of my dot. I'm leaving my wedge similar to what I showed you earlier, right around the knee, between the knee and the foot of the pitcher. I think that's a really good reference point. That time the ball was way to the top right of the zone, but I still crushed it. So again, I'm covering that top third of the zone really easily with this. That time I was just to the 2 or 3 o'clock to the right. How about this one? Let's see where it is. Just to the 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, pretty close to the dot though. I also noticed guys who had hot zones in the top also crushed it much better. I actually had some trouble with Mike Trout, who you will see have a monster like 480-foot home run or something coming up here. He's gonna hit it to left field. Stanton, same thing. I had a little trouble with him, believe it or not. Not with this one though. So let's see where the dot was, where the ball was on this one. It was just to the top right, almost between 12 and 1 on the clock. How about this one? That was a deep fly ball and just straight above my dot. So that was pretty awesome. Now after the Marlins and Angels highlights, we will have the Nationals and the Cubs coming up here. So we'll take a look at Harper, Rizzo, Bryant, some of those guys going to work. That one was just to the right of the dot. Here's D. Gordon. I'm not going to make any comments here about how he hit the home run out. You guys can make your own, but it was dead on the dot. Christian Yelich. Actually, that might have been a double. This one is definitely out of there, a line drive. And that was directly to the right at 3 o'clock of the dot, but again, it's covering that top third of the zone. We're getting really good, the fat part of the bat. There's that Trout monster 475-foot home run. Pujols hooks it foul, but I just wanted to show you where the dot was on this one. Dead center on my dot. Look at where it was, almost 9 o'clock that time, but again, we're covering that top third. They're not gonna sneak a fastball by us. By the way, you may be wondering, am I using square? Am I using X? It kind of depends. If it's a regular kind of everyday hitter, I'm using X just to try to cover that top third a little better, and you should too. But if it's a Trout, if it's a Pujols, Stanton, some of those guys, they're going to have larger power swing areas, then I am using square. So like a Schwarber, a Rizzo, those guys. Here's Kyle Schwarber, who just hit it out. This one was a regular normal swing with X. I believe this is Addison Russell. We'll take a look at where that was. Yep, just above my wedge. This one is crushed off the foul pole. That was Zobrist just above the dot again. And so you want to be getting just under these. That's why I really recommend putting your wedge zone around the foot or the shin. It's really the perfect placement because I'll show you some examples later of when I hit it dead on the middle of the ball or kind of under it. You'll see that later, or some lazy fly balls. But these are, of course, all the fun highlights of the home runs or just nearly home runs, like with Harper right there. You can see that cutter is just above the zone. Here's another home run by Addison Russell. Not a huge power hitter, but again, if you just put your zone right there and the ball is just a few inches above that dot with the wedge zone, you know you got this. You know it's going out of the park, and that's what I'm talking about. When you see that ball come in, your eyes light up and you're like, I got this. And you don't move that thumb, you keep it under that joystick, and it's out of there. I guarantee your home runs will go up, because mine did. Over the last few days, when I started doing this, I started taking away the entire top third of that zone, and guess what ended up happening? The guy started throwing sliders and curveballs and changeups in the bottom half because he couldn't throw a strike in the top half. I would not let him throw a strike in the top half, and you know that's what guys are doing. They're not throwing the breaking stuff in the top half, it's all the fastballs. So if you start crushing these, they're gonna get scared to throw one up there. I guarantee if there were a 50-50 mix of throwing you fastballs up high and breaking balls down low, they will cut that in half to like only 1 out of every 4 pitches will be up high, and you start letting those go. You start playing mind games during the middle of your online head-to-head games, and you start saying, I got this. Now, what if you drill it, like absolutely drill it? If that fastball misses the spot, it's right next to your dot, you're gonna start hitting a lot more line drives. So even if they're not home runs, and even if you don't have great power hitters, these are still good hits. And I'm showing you all the graphics after each one of these so you can see the result. And see, that time the ball was actually below my dot. This time was a really solid double. I got some solid doubles in here. That was dead on. Here's another great double. Where was that? Just above. So that was a guy who just didn't have the power to get it out of there. Look at that one, just to the right and a little low. Jason Worth, double territory right there, a gap shot just to the right of the dot. So they're just not elevating these balls, that's the point. But you can still get really solid swings whether you're using power or X. I do recommend reserving that power swing though for the power hitters like Bryce Harper. Down the line, he hits a rope for a double. So there you go. I mean, I think all of this is really helpful. I've never seen anyone edit their hits along with the feedbacks in the right or left, so you can see those at-bat feedbacks like this with a consistent pitch. And I think this should be really helpful for you to take away that top third of the zone and just start destroying opponents by either clubbing home runs, doubles, singles, you name it, or forcing them to go low. And then you can just sit on the breaking stuff, because to me, the fastball is the one that gives me the most trouble. If I want to sit on the breaking stuff, I can, but then the opponent is just going to wreck me by throwing those high fastballs over and over. And you can see I've pretty much figured out the timing of these ones. I'm going to just sit there for the first few innings of my games against my opponents and let them adjust to me. So here's some of those lazy fly balls I was talking about. Here was Stanton. That looked pretty good right above the dot. Here's another one. Let's see where that one landed, just above the dot. Here's Stanton again. He flies out. That was, again, a little above the strike zone. You just got to be cautious about using that power swing when you don't have a power swing kind of guy. Let's see where this one was. Way to the outside and outside of my wedge. All right, let's take a look at this one. We know it's a high fly ball, and it was just a little too high, a sinker up in the zone. This one was really good, but the guy just didn't have enough attribute for power there. And that's my last tip. If you don't have a power hitter, don't try to get under it. You're just gonna throw a lazy fly ball out there. So get right on top of it. Move that zone up even further. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. MLB The Show tips. Follow me on Twitter and subscribe for more all season long.